Good afternoon and welcome to the regular meeting of Lethbridge School Division on Tuesday, May the 25th, 2021. I am beginning this meeting. I would like to acknowledge that we're gathering together today from all of our different destinations on the traditional land of the Blackfoot people. First on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. I would like to add one item, and that is the Division School Council report. And I will insert that following the ATA local council report. Are there any other additions to the agenda? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please? Jan, call to question, all in favor? If you could please raise your chat hands or your screen hands if you are on screen. Doug, your hand has to be a little bit higher. Thank you. So carried. Number 2, we have the approval of the minutes. Were there any errors or omissions noted? If not, if I could have a motion to approve, please.
Speaker off unless I'm talking because I make noise.
Doug, call to question, all in favor? So carried. And no business arising from the minutes. So we have a presentation. Off-campus programs. Gentlemen, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you very much and good afternoon, everyone. Just a word of warning, we're at LCI in a Learning Commons where they're doing a lot of mechanical work and they've been pumping music through the intercom system for sound checks. So if you hear some rock music coming on, it's got nothing to do with our presentation. So we'll get started. Can you, did Leanne put up the presentation for you to see?
Oh, yes, it is up right now.
Perfect. So yeah, the first slide, just want to go through our team. On the left-hand side, you can see Carrie, who you all know. And maybe Carrie, explain what your role is.
As Andrew says, I'm his assistant. So most of my work is working with registered apprenticeship students, and I do in each of the 5 high schools in the city. I've got a bit of a trap line through the week where I'm having presence at each school every week for about an hour and a half or so, and do the initial meetings and talk with kids about the opportunities in the program, and start to build that capacity and connection there. And Andrew's got a lot of work doing visitations for safety inspections and student evaluations and those sorts of things. So my work is doing some of that front end work, and then as kids come online with RAP, helping get them registered with the provincial government as registered apprentices.
Thank you. And then we have Jackie Lowe. She's our admin assistant. She looks after the entering or the calculation and entering of all student marks in off-campus and entering them. And she looks after work experience at LCI in Vic Park. And then we have Mamta De Palma. She looks after work experience at Emmanuel Christian, Winston Churchill in Chinook. And then as myself, as Carrie mentioned, I look after, all the student evaluation, safety inspection for the hundreds and hundreds of businesses that we work with each year in farms. That being said, I think, I didn't pull any specific statistics for the meeting this afternoon because they're forever changing. I would say that we put through probably about 700 to 800 students per year in either green certificate work experience or registered apprenticeship. And it's difficult to calculate. I can go on to our computer programs and see how many we've got right now. But the problem is they become inactivated once they've achieved, their maximum number of credits. So it's a rolling number of students each year. One of the programs of off-campus education is Green Certificate, which is basically a farm training program in which students are or have to be attached to a farm. That could be a family farm or a place where they're just working at part-time. And I won't go through all of the different specialties, but it's available for grades 10 to 12 students. Excellent learning opportunity. In many cases, they get advanced credit if they go to Lethbridge College for the animal or the ag tech program, and also to Olds College as well. I've been now with the district 6 years, and I think we're up around 30 or 40 green certificate students this year, which is by far the largest number or the highest number of students that we have had in that program. And the nice thing is, it's not just Emmanuel Christian Farm kids. We've got a lot of Winston Churchill girls taking equine, and here at LCI, and also at Chinook. The next thing that we offer is work experience. And again, you can earn up to 15 credits towards a high school diploma. 30 credits show up on the student's transcript. I'm not too sure why Alberta Education has made that distinction a number of years ago, because it does tend to confuse students and parents above all, because they see the 30 credits and think that all of them count towards a diploma. So we constantly have to remind them that they need to get other credits in place. Basically, the 5 main advantages or reasons for doing work experience: it really does apply classroom learning. I was at a job site this morning, a student working in carpentry as a trade, but also getting work experience credits for it. And they were working in a house, and he was using trigonometry, which he never realized that he would have to apply from his grade 10 math. And he was applying that to figuring out the correct slope of a staircase going down into the basement, to make sure that each step is the same height, right? Because otherwise you end up with 2 inches lower on the bottom and landing quite awkwardly. Second main advantage is really learning outside of the classroom, whether that is kids working at Tim Hortons or Walmart or Mr. Lube or Canadian Tire. Those very important communication skills, problem solving skills, and also applying, again, the real learning that they do in the classroom. And going together with that, as I alluded to, those lifelong professional work skills. I've always stayed away from calling them soft work skills, because it gives the impression that they are not as important as what we call the hard work skills. So showing up on time, and again, the conflict resolution, taking extra shifts when you need to, following instructions, you name it. The big thing is career exploration. That's really the main motivation behind work experience. Find out when you're 16, 17 years old what that job is like, rather than when you are graduated, blindly go into a college or university program because you feel that you need to do something after you graduate, and then find out halfway through the semester that maybe criminal justice is not up your alley after all, and you've wasted 6 months and $7,000 worth of tuition. And we tell students all the time, when you do the work experience, if that is not up your alley, great, just be intellectually honest and we'll move on to something else. And the last one, but certainly not least, is parent contact. So even for, I just did it again last week, student working at Tim Hortons, which now with COVID is a little bit interesting with the restaurants being closed, because now I have to pull up to the drive-through and they say, what would you like? What would you like to order? And I said, I'd like to order a manager, please, for a few minutes. So it's a whole different way of approaching them, but it's worked out quite well. But again, this student got 100%, and the manager said, can you please clone him? So I phoned my assistant, Jackie Lois, said, hey, can you send me so-and-so's phone number? And as I'm driving, because I'm on a road all the time, I call the parent, usually get a voicemail because they're working during the day, and I say, It's Andrew, just from Lethbridge School Division, the off-campus coordinator, just went to Tim Hortons, talk about your son to see how he's doing, and they just love him there. They are so thankful that he has continued to work there and hope that he stays there for a long time. On the occasion where I do speak to parents directly, I remember my days as classroom teacher. When you phone parents, you get that 2 or 3 second pause at the other end when you say, hey, I'm from the school, I'm just calling in regards to your son. And immediately what goes through their mind, oh no, what did he do now? And I speak as a parent on that end as well. So it's so refreshing when you do speak to parents and you hear them, you explain what their son or daughter has done well, and they say, thank you for letting us know. And sometimes they say, we've struggled with him at home in the last while, so it's really good to hear, that he's doing well elsewhere. So we try and keep up that contact as much as possible. And I try and phone as many parents as I possibly can. And when I do the evaluation, I'll get my assistant teams that to the student as well, that they can see the feedback from the employer. If there is feedback where they need to improve, I make sure, obviously not the last little while, but then I make sure that I do that in person. I don't just send them an evaluation and allow the student to see, hey, I guess I'm not doing so well on the job site and I'm about to get fired. So you make sure you go through that in a very positive and building way. And Carrie is going to chat a little bit about the Registered Apprenticeship Program.
The RAP, or Registered Apprenticeship Program, is quite a bit different actually than work experience. This is for kids that have had some experiences or had some good thought, and they're really looking towards a trades-related career. So students can start migrating into actual apprenticeship work as high school students. The common path, if you will, is people would finish high school or most of their high school, get a job with, say, a plumbing company and want to become a plumber, and they would start working hours as an apprentice, and after about 1,500 hours or so, they would qualify to move into the first year of technical school at one of the colleges in the province. 6 to 8 weeks of that, pass those courses, they're back to work with their company, and on it goes for 3 or 4 years, depending on the trade, until they're fully certified as a journeyman. What registered apprenticeship allows a student to do is partner up with a company as a high school student, and they can start collecting those hours as a high school student, and they can collect up to 40 credits worth of hours towards their high school diploma. And at the same time, they're getting hours towards their trade certification. So we do have many students and many examples that have been doing RAP for maybe grade 11 and 12. That 40 credits takes place of their optional and extended courses. They're still getting their course through the school and going to school for maybe 2 classes a day or 2 classes a semester, and then they're working 20 to 30 hours a week and gathering credits that way as well. And at the end of their high school, they not only have the credits, but they may have close to their 1,500 hours of their first year of work already. So they've got a jump start. They're almost a year ahead of waiting till after high school. So it is a significant program, but it is quite a bit different than work experience. This one is leading towards careers. It's a bigger commitment where it's really a job that they're working. The companies do hire them, place them. They have to go through the process, which we support, on getting interviewed, doing good resume work, and actually earning the job and getting those positions. So it's a great way to do it. But at the same time, kids get a real vision of what that work is. They may think that they want to do a particular career, but once they actually get involved in it for 2 or 3 months, they can make an informed choice, and we don't hold them accountable. If it's really not something that they want to continue with, we certainly work with them to look for other avenues, and they're not locked in and tied into that as this is going to be the rest of my life. So it's a bit more than exploration, but it's also gives them some really good opportunities to explore and work on those trades as high school students. We are seeing, which we'll probably see with some of our examples, a lot more breadth coming. Andrew and I are really work hard to keep connections with a number of companies. Unfortunately, we've got more kids looking for the opportunity than businesses that we can have, but we've been very successful this year with a very good breadth of placements. We've got a lot of people connected to us. When they have opportunities, they all contact us. We were hoping to do a little bit more of job shadowing, letting kids explore for 2 or 3 or 4 days to see if that's really a trade that they want to pursue in more detail. That has worked in some cases, but with the COVID, we have also had not uncommonly businesses saying, you know, we're a small company and we need to keep pretty close tabs on who we have working in our thing because we can't afford to have COVID hit our shop and shut us all down. A little bit different than a big place that can just change a shift for a group of people, but certainly some opportunities there that dovetail into that as well.
Yeah, and I would just, in conclusion about that, I would say our success rate for students in RAP is probably about 90-95% of kids that stick into the trade, which if you compare that to the adult workforce, I think that would be the envy of any recruiting agency out there or any HR department in a larger company. So we put a lot of emphasis in screening students, making sure that we send quality candidates to employers.
Yeah. Very good matches for the kid and for the employer as well. It's nice to have those options when some of those come up, and the connections Andrew's built over the years have paid a lot of dividends, where we are go-to people in many cases where they're looking to bring in new apprentices for a lot of reasons. They prefer to have high school students starting with them than more seasoned people that might bring other suitcases with them.
Yep, indeed. Very briefly, and I do stress briefly because I know you guys have got a long agenda, we'll just chat about 3 of our success stories. And yes, Allison, your son will be one of them. And I wasn't even aware when I made the presentation that you would be part of the meeting, so it was not for any intention that way. First one is Dennis Shaw. He works at DMT Industrial. They do a lot of fabrication work for McCain's, Frito-Lay, Richardson's, Cavendish, etc. Big company. Dennis started in RAP in the summer between grade 9 and grade 10. And he was probably as big then as he is now. And he does look like a welder, doesn't he? A tremendous success story. Dennis holds his own. He's already got over 2,500 hours of his required 4,500 hours to become a journeyman welder. So by the time that young man is 20 years old, he's going to be a journeyman welder, and he wants to go into millwright after that. The nice thing about Dennis is that he's an incredible tradesman, but RAP was just built for him. Dennis was not built for a desk in school. Dennis hated school with a passion, and he was very open about that. But it was always a wonderful trigger when Dennis was getting behind in his schoolwork, and Dennis said, Andrew, please say that when you do the presentation about me. When he was getting behind in his schoolwork, I would go to the owners of DMT and say, hey, Dennis is kind of falling behind in his math or English. And Nathan Monroe, the owner, would say, good, tell Dennis he's not showing up to work until he's got his schoolwork caught up. So, and I never did it in a negative, nefarious way, but I always made sure that Dennis had weekend time to catch up. So I would phone him and his mom on, Thursday afternoon or so and say, hey, Dennis is falling way behind in his work. He needs to be caught up, and I need to see proof of that until he's going back to work at DMT. And sure enough, every single time, Dennis would send me a screenshot of his work on Sunday night saying that he was ready to go back to DMT in the afternoon. So it's, a good trigger for some of these kids to see the value of education and also to see their responsibility of getting a high school diploma and that getting good marks in school is important if you want to go into the trades. The next one briefly is our little rock star out of LCI again. She works at Performance Powertrain Products. The first time I went into the business, the owner said, "You won't see any Mazdas here." They do all high-end performance work, engine repair, etc., transmission work on GTOs and Cobras and Mustangs and right, all the high-end performance cars. Kerry had a great line. He said, what did you say again about boys working?
Oh, well, I don't know if that's the one you were thinking of, but yeah, she's landed a job that there'd be 100 boys lined up for. But when I did the little tour of the company and got the lowdown, it's all classic performance cars, and these people have clients as far away as Texas shipping them engines for them to rebuild. They're a highly, highly regarded company with just a little tiny sign outdoors. But after the tour, I told the fella, I said, you know, if things don't work out with any of your apprentices, phone me. I'd love to work here.
Yeah,
it's a dream job.
It sure is. This is a picture I took a couple of weeks ago. She's working 2 mornings per week, and thanks to COVID, the one benefit, she's been able to work a little bit more. One benefit, I guess, of the virus. What she was working on there is replacing the whole wiring in this Jeep that had gone in a what do they call that again? Mud bogging or whatever, and fried the whole electrical system. So she had been spending 2 or 3 weeks completely on her own, going through all the manuals, calling up technicians if she needed help, and replacing the entire electrical system in that vehicle. And keep in mind, this is a barely 16-year-old grade 10 girl. The owner got what we call the ILMs, the individual learning modules from the college, first year training in automotive service technician, and she is methodically working through first year technical training skills and learning while the kid is in grade 10. Absolutely phenomenal. And the last one. Oops, wrong one.
This is Braden Pike. Braden's a grade 11 student at Winston Churchill, and started working with Braden investigating some possible trade routes this year, and does well in his academic courses, and is a very self-motivated student. And this all began with Andrew and I meeting with Braden and Mom and really trying to get a handle on what Braden wanted to maybe pursue, what his thoughts were, and for us to have a better understanding of some of his strengths and some of his passions and things. So at that point, Braden's most of his experience was through wood shop in school, and he did well at that. He thought that might be a trade route for him, whether it was carpentry or something that was fairly limited. We were able to find him a job shadow at a local cabinet making company. He spent, I think it was 3 or 4 days there, spread out over a couple of weeks, and did well at the job, but they didn't really have anything in terms of work hiring. But they were going to keep him in mind, and Braden thought that that was okay. A little later on, we had, with one of our partnerships with Southland International Trucks, a very high-end supporter of student workers and registered apprenticeship throughout the area, had an opportunity for a possible parts technician. And many of the strengths that Braden had, attention to detail and wanting to certainly keep things organized and in order, we thought, geez, maybe this might be something for Braden to explore. So we had a chat with Braden, and we were able to line up essentially a longer term job shadow. They weren't in a position to be hiring or to do apprenticeship right off the bat, but they were very willing to bring somebody in on an unpaid work experience placement. So Braden started going there 3 afternoons a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday afternoons, learning a little bit about the trade. They got him into the shipping and receiving, helping with the parts, working at the front desk for customers, and really learning that. And one of those examples of a student really getting to see firsthand, is this something I like? And he grew to really enjoy it. The company really started to enjoy the work that he was doing. And as it progressed, it was about a month ago, they decided they would like to bring him on as an apprentice and start having some paid work. So it was a good little circuit there. We found something that Braden had never thought of, but having that discussion with him and getting to know him a little deeper and getting some input from the family, we thought this was worth a try, and it's working out really well. So Braden is getting signed up as a registered apprentice as a grade 11 student and is going to start collecting hours and working towards being a parts technician with Southland International Trucks.
And that brings us to the end of our presentation. We had hoped to do it in person, realized that that wasn't going to happen. Otherwise, I would have asked for a hand vote. On the left-hand side, we have our dog, a lovely, obedient, well-mannered, sedate, kind, loving dog, Havanese poodle. And on the right-hand side, we have Carrie's mongrel, not trying to influence your voting, who tears cushions, cages, remote controls apart, strikes terror into the heart of neighborhood children, and is basically a shame to the animal kingdom. That's all I can say. So whose dog do you think is better looking?
I have to defend my dog. She's a very smart dog. She's a Husky Lab cross, and part of a Husky Lab cross, either one of those dogs is very loyal. She's wonderful with the children in the neighborhood. She's just very high energy, and she misses me dearly when I leave the house. So we're working through some issues on furniture, no furniture yet, but couch cushions are certainly taking a beating lately. But
yes, so in conclusion,
but usually she sits just like that and waits for me to tell her that she's wonderful.
So in conclusion, if any of you know of a good dog psychologist, please pass that on to Carrie. Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Carrie and Andrew, for your presentation. What a fabulous program that you head up, and thank you for just taking the lead on a program that allows students to find their passion and gain work skills and just find their place and find a place to serve after school and even during school, as we've seen. I appreciated the 3 personal stories. I could hear stories all day long, but I thank you for sharing those 3 stories with us and just seeing the impact that it has on their lives. And Andrew, I really appreciate when you said you speak positive things to parents. I know as parents, we hear the concerns readily. Those seem to be the things that are most prominent in communication. And so to hear positive things is a gift, and to hear about your child succeeding, and because all those good things, they unfortunately don't always happen in home. They happen out of home, away from parents and family. And so to hear those positive reviews is a gift. So thank you for pursuing that with parents and supporting students.
Thank you. If any of you would ever want to visit with some of these students at the job site, please send me an email and I'd be happy to facilitate that. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. That would be great. Are there any trustees who have questions for Carrie or Andrew? All right. Well, I have to say I met the mongrel and he's pretty cute. So I haven't met the other one yet, but they're both pretty cute pups. So thank you for joining us today.
You sound like a politician, Christine. Well said. You could run for mayor at that rate. Absolutely.
Oh, that's too much. Too much, Andrew.
Thank you so much. Have a good meeting.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. We will now move on to our action items, and now we have our policies. I will invite Trish Syme to join us and present the policies.
Hi, thank you, Christine. Hope everybody is well. Clark, I understand you're going to help out with the motions today, so That'll be great. So the policies today, we have our first one, policy 204.13.1, public solicitations of the board. So the only change here was an addition all the way down to number 2.1. The board may grant donations provided the function of the organization is considered by the board to be a natural extension of division programs and or connection with mission, vision, and values. And then, of course, district to division and the Education Act and updating the sections of the Act. Okay, any questions or concerns?
Seeing none, go ahead, Clark.
I would like to move that the board adopt the revisions to policy 204.13.1, public solicitations of the board as presented by the Policy Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
All right, next one, policy 205.1, trustee compensation. The only addition to this one, a notable addition, is the name change. Number 2, the Secretary, Treasurer, Associate Superintendent, Business and Operations will be responsible to review the trustee remuneration and expense claims. So it's just a change of name. And then, of course, Education Act change and district to division and the section changes in the Act. Any questions regarding this policy?
Seeing none, go ahead, Clark.
I'd like to motion that the board adopt the revisions to policy 205.1, trustee compensation as presented by the Policy Advisory Committee.
Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
Okay, policy 206.1, trustee training and development. One of the changes here, notable changes down to the regulations. Number 2, new board members shall receive the Education Act, the current school division assurance plan, annual education results report, and the policy handbook and other relevant documents pertinent to the operations of the board and the division. So just a name change from the 3-year education plan to the assurance plan. And then, of course, district to division and school act to education act and change in the sections. Any questions regarding this policy?
Seeing none, go ahead, Clark.
I would like to motion that the board adopt revisions to policy 206.1, trustee training and development as presented.
Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
Okay, the next policy, 301.1, Superintendent of Schools, roles and responsibilities. So besides the obvious changes, district to division and the 3-year education plan to division assurance plan, all the way down on 2.1.5. Some notable changes to 2.2, providing leadership for the school division and supervising the operation of schools and the provision of education programs by 2.2.1, implementing education policies established by the minister. 2.2.2, ensuring students have the opportunity in the school division to meet the standards of education set by the minister. And 2.2.3, ensuring that the fiscal management of the school division by the Secretary Treasurer is in accordance with the terms and conditions of any grants received by the board. And the only other changes then again were to the Education Act, to the sections 52 and 222. Any questions?
I would like to motion that the board adopt the revisions to policy 301.1, Superintendent of Schools Roles and Responsibilities, as presented.
Called a question, all in favor? So carried.
Okay, 301.3, evaluation process for the superintendent. No significant changes to this policy, just changes from district to division and education plan to the assurance plan and Education Act or School Act to Education Act. Okay, any questions on this one?
I have a couple of comments about it. I feel like there's issues with this one. Specifically in the evaluation of the superintendent, number 1, which says to be conducted during the first full year of employment and in the year prior to the final year of the superintendent's term of employment or term of appointment. That clause in there has left this board its entire term without an opportunity to have a summative evaluation of our superintendent. And evaluations are essentially a positive experience for everybody. But to think that, we have one employee and this particular board has been together 4 years and we will not have gone to a single stakeholder to ask for their input on our only employee. I believe that something needs to be done to make this summative evaluation where we gather input from informed stakeholders. Something should happen where it happens every other year or every third year, or like the teacher, hopefully this never happens, but the teacher evaluation says that when on the basis of information received through supervision, there's reason to believe that the teacher may not meet the teacher quality standards. So even the teachers, there's a clause in there. And this summative evaluation does not provide any opportunity to enter into a summative evaluation. And not that that's what people are looking for, but systems have had issues with superintendents. And our board is going their entire 4 years without any opportunity to hear what people say about our only employee. So I think it needs to be looked at and overhauled and maybe redone.
Okay.
Thank you, Clark. Jan, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I've been on the Superintendent Evaluation Committee for a number of years, and I thought that first one there is the actual formal one where the board actually hires somebody to come in and do a formal evaluation, but that there is an evaluation done periodically. And I'm just looking at this policy, trying to see where that happens, where we do an evaluation. We don't wait for more than 4 years to do an evaluation.
Well, sorry to interrupt you, Jan, but there is a formative evaluation that we do every year, but that doesn't take into account any stakeholder input or any feedback from employee groups or anything like that. Nor does it take a look at things that might happen that the board's attention is drawn to, like. Let's say we had a superintendent who was, involved in criminal activity. I mean, that's kind of an extreme example, but that I'm sure that could kick into some sort of summative evaluation. But we do the formative evaluation every year, and that's good. But the one where we talk to people about our employee should happen more than once every 5 years.
Thank you, Clark. Are there any other comments? Tyler?
I'm kind of with Jan there. I thought that we had something where we did a summative assessment every 3rd year. But I don't know where that would be, but I thought I've never been on the Superintendent Evaluation Committee. So that would be one comment. Do we have anything like that? Because I thought we did. And then the other thing would be, I'm not sure who knows this, Cheryl, Christine, Christine Lee. But when it comes to superintendents as well, is there some thing in the school act or by the minister or whatever that they're always approved on a 5-year term? Or is that just kind of what's been standard practice and you could run a 3-year term or a 4-year term for a superintendent?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I have to look that up. Cheryl, is that off?
I believe superintendents can be given up to a 5-year term, but no more. That's in the regulations, I think.
That is one way of ensuring that any given board at any given time would be able to do a review of their superintendent, is to have a contract term that's not 5 years. One way. Now, that being said, that may or may not dissuade a superintendent from taking a position where it's only 3 years here and it's 5 years in another division. So there's trade-offs for these things, but that's one of them.
Yeah, 5 years actually for an executive is a standard length of time because of the commitment to the organization. So I don't know if you want to go there. Why don't you table this for further discussion? This would be my recommendation for this policy.
Sure.
Yes, I would agree with that. Thank you, Clark, for bringing that up. That is something that needs to be revisited. So we will table this. Oh, Tyler, I see your hand.
I believe you have to have a motion to table it. So I will motion to table whichever policy this is. Someone can fill it in.
Okay. Thank you, Tyler. Tyler's put forward a motion to table this. Called a question. Is there any further discussion on this at this time? Lola, your hand is up. Oh, Lola, you just need to turn your mic on your computer.
Okay. Oh, okay. Now I'll do this and this. No, can you hear me? Okay. No, and talking about the last thing about evaluating or whatever it was with the various people. It's from 13 years that I've been on there, probably too. They do evaluations, but I don't know if they do them every 3 years or every 2 years or every 5 years or whatever it is. Because I've never been. Have we ever been together? Yeah. No, I haven't.
Yeah. Sorry, Lola, say that again.
Just a minute. It came on. I heard you. Yeah. Huh? We were talking about, I don't like, if you want to call it evaluation, with various people that are in the, big positions and stuff. But, and they talked about 3 years and any other years, but I don't think we have had that length of, that many. And I don't think they all come at 3 years. We have to check on that.
Well, this is definitely information that we need to gather to make a sound choice. And there is value. I do agree with Clark in that there is value in receiving stakeholder feedback. And I know heading into this term, we were all aware that we would potentially not be able to evaluate as clearly as we would like. So definitely there will be value in bringing this back and looking over this as a team. Donna,
Yes.
your hand is up.
Yes. I do believe that it should be every board term, like 4 years, within the 4 years of every board. So when we do this, I would like to see that every board have an evaluation process within it, like summative evaluation. So that would make it could be the last year of the superintendent's term or whatever you think is right. But I think every board should have an evaluation of their only employee. Every board term. Yeah.
Thank you, Donna.
Can I
do
also-
see that a hand is up, but I don't know whose hand it is.
It's not mine.
It's mine. This is
Who's
Doug
mine?
James.
Oh, Doug.
Okay. Tyler, I understand what you're saying there, Tyler and Donna. That was a very good comment on your part. Is if we're going to review this, is this something that should be reviewed, but on this policy change, but not necessarily make the change for this year, but maybe that's something with the new board to look at when they come in the fall. It's just a comment. I'm just asking if that's what you were thinking of, Tyler.
Or you mean Clark? Like Clark was the one who originally brought it forward. Are you asking Clark really? Because all I did was kind of table it and say, I agree that there should be, some sort of evaluation during a board's term.
Okay, and I thought the tabling was that to have that discussion.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
That's all I'm asking clarification. That's all.
I think it can be done by either board, honestly. You're just setting up a system and a protocol. So.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Can I just also add, because there was a question about the 5 years thing, so that is listed in the act as well, in section 222, that it is no more than 5 years. Just Christine already said that, Christine Lee already stated that, but just throwing that out there as well. But we certainly can table it for further discussion.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Okay, now I know Tyler put forward the motion and we've had discussion. Have we voted on this yet?
No, you have not.
Thank you very much. That's where my 46-year-old brain is tonight. Sorry about that. Okay, the motion is put forward to table this policy, policy 301.3. Called a question. All in favor? Clark, are you there?
Yeah, I was waving.
Oh, sorry, I can't see you. You're not on screen. Sorry, Clark.
I'm not on screen. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
I'll lift my hand on the other way.
There we are. So carried. Thank you.
Okay, policy 302.2, Secretary Treasurer. Notable changes to this one, just down to 2.8. It should read administration, not administrators. So administration of the division's facility services department. So this is the Secretary Treasurer's roles. Planning and reporting for the capital infrastructure projects in the division. 2.10, ensuring adequate risk management practices, including adequate insurance coverage maintained by the division. And 2.11, administration of the division occupational health and safety program. 2.12, administration of the division's transportation department. Otherwise, other changes, district to division, and the School Act to Education Act, and a change in the section as well. Any questions about this policy?
Okay.
Seeing none, go ahead, Clark.
I would like to move that the board adopt the revisions to policy 302.2, Secretary Treasurer, as presented.
Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
Okay, policy 601.1, the school assurance plan and annual assurance results report. So obvious notable change is the change of the name from the combined 3-year education plan to the assurance plan, and the annual education results report to the annual assurance results report. And then down on 1.4, just some change, well, not a real change, just a different wording to the regulations. The assurance plan and annual assurance results report shall be made public by posting the plan on the school website. And 1.5, be reviewed by school administration with the superintendent. Of course, a different section in the Education Act and District 2 division changes in there as well. Any questions?
Donna.
Did I read that wrong in 1.4? Should it be the school website or district website?
There, to the school website, every school does post
individually?
their own plan, yeah, on their own website, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Any other questions? Lola, you have a question?
Yeah. Policy advisory.
Sorry, Lola, you just have to turn your mic on.
Sorry. On Policy Advisory Committee and April 30th, 2021, and pardon me? Oh, okay. Okay, I'm fine. I'm okay. Okay, I got that.
Thanks, Lola. Any other questions? Clark.
All right, I would like to move that the board adopt revisions to policy 601.1, and I'll try to get the title right. The school assurance plan and annual assurance results report as presented.
Call to question. All in favor? Doug? So carried.
Okay. Policy 606.5, educating students at home. The Policy Advisory Committee is proposing to have this policy removed for reasons. One, it is no longer supported by the Education Act. The definitions are outdated. There is no home education, there's no homeschooling, there's no blended program, and our home education facilitator has a different name as well. And the home education regulation also has its own regulation under the Act as well. Any questions about this policy and the removal of this policy?
Just for clarity's sake, Trish,
Yeah.
how is this then different from the online learning where students will be home? If we
Well,
could
that's
just have that information given.
it's not the same at all. The way it's defined here, well, this policy that we have here is extremely outdated.
Yeah.
Any of the terms that are listed here are no longer part of the Act anymore. So it's just a policy that, yeah, it's outdated. Distance learning, if that's what you're looking at, or at-home learning, has already been stated in other policies for education planning, either through the alternative programs or through or alternate programs or outreach programs, the different policies that we already have.
Perfect. Thank you, Trish. I appreciate that. Any questions for Trish on this one? Seeing none, Clark.
I would like to motion that the board remove policy 606.5, educating students at home, as, well, not presented, I guess. Just remove policy 606.5.
Thank you. Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
Great. And then Appendix 502.1, Student Code of Conduct. So this appendix is reviewed every year at this board meeting. So definitions of bullying, discrimination, harassment, and the procedures following this Student Code of Conduct. Having read it, did anybody have any concerns, any additions that need to be added to this Code of Conduct? Yeah, we got some districts in there.
Just a minor on number 10, Trish.
Okay.
Shall have is just one word. It just needs to be edited. That's a
Yeah.
small thing.
Okay.
Any other comments or additions? Seeing none, Clark.
I'd like to move that the or motion the board adopt revisions to policy 502.1, Appendix A, Student Code of Conduct, as present or as amended.
Thank you. Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
Great.
Thank you, Trish, for all your work.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Have a great day.
Bye.
All right, we move from one long list to an even longer list with our authorization of locally developed courses. Morag.
This truly is my favorite time of year, not really, but where we have the necessity to approve courses that have either expired or need to be renewed. And so we are asking for the courses that are presenting here in front of you to be approved by the board. Obviously, many of these courses are acquired from other boards, and so some of them have different time limits, and so that's why you'll get different courses each year, because they expire at different times related to when they were acquired. Essentially, we would just like to get the board's approval of the courses below here until August 31st, 2024. And then we have another list of them just underneath, 2 other courses of academic achievement going to 2025. If you go to the next page, you'll see a long barrage of lists that are also being requested to be approved, because I think what is exciting is that we will be able to start to offer more courses again, with the hopes that the pandemic will be lifting and restrictions might be a little more flexible, where we can offer more courses again. The recommendation ultimately is that the board approve the use of competence, well, you see I'm not going to read them all out because they will be included in the motions, but we've written them out for you to make it a little easier for the board, because I know we have to go through these one by one. So there we go.
Thank you, Morag. Are there any questions for Morag before we begin? All right, if I can have a trustee begin the motion to accept these courses.
I'll start. I did it last year, and just hold on, and I'll start with the first recommendation, and correct me if I need to rephrase it as we move along. Okay. The recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the use of LDC 1515 competencies in math 15-5 for 5 credits newly acquired from the Red Deer School Division from September 1st, 2021 to August 31st, 2025 to enhance program offerings to students.
Thank you. Call to question. Any discussion? All in favor? So carried.
The recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the use of LDC 3202 Biology Advanced 2020 35-3 in place of expiring LDC 3219 Biology 35-3 AP from September 1st, 2021 to August 31st, 2024 to provide continuance of program offerings to students.
Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
Recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the continued use of dance performance 15, 25, and 35, LDC 1299, LDC 2299, LDC 3299 for 3 and 5 credits until August 31st, 2024 for use in all division high schools.
Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
The recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the continued use of directing 25 and 35, LDC 2468, LDC 3468 for 5 credits until August 31st, 2024 for use in all division high schools.
Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
Recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the continued use of ESL, Expository English 15 and 25. I've got to just move the little mark here. LDC 1513, LDC 2513 for 5 credits until August 31st, 2024 for use in all division high schools.
Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
Recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the continued use of ESL Introduction to Math 15 LDC 1350 for 5 credits until August 31st, 2024 for use in all division high schools.
Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
Recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the continued use of Reading 15 and 25 LDC 1148, LDC 2148 for 3 and 5 credits until August 31st, 2024 for use in all division high schools.
Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
Recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the continued use of academic achievement through English language development 15, 25, and 35, LDC 1149, LDC 2149, LDC 3149 for 3 credits until August 31st, 2025 for use in all division high schools.
Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
Recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the continued use of forensic science studies 35 LDC 3754 for 5 credits until August 31st, 2025 for use in all division high schools.
Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
Recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the continued use of forensic studies 2535 LDC 2569 LDC 3569 for 3 credits until August 31st, 2025 for the use in all division high schools.
Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
Recommendation the Board of Trustees approve the continued use of instrumental jazz 15, 25, and 35 LDC 1431 LDC 2431 LDC 3431 for 3 and 5 credits until August 31st, 2025 for the use in all division high schools.
Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
Recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the continued use of leadership, character, and social responsibility 15, 25, and 35 LDC 1509, LDC 2509, LDC 3509 for 3 and 5 credits until August 31st, 2025 for use in all division high schools.
Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
Recommendation the Board of Trustees approve the continued use of musical theater 15, 25, and 35 LDC 1979, LDC 2979, LDC 3979 for 5 credits until August 31st, 2025 for use in all division high schools.
Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
Recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the continued use of Theory of Knowledge 35 LDC 3152 for 3 credits until August 31st, 2025 for use in all division high schools.
Call to question. All in favor? So carried.
And the final drum roll. Recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the continued use of vocal jazz 15, 25, and 35, LDC 1433, LDC 2433, LDC 3433 for 5 credits until August 31st, 2025 for use in all division high schools.
Oh, vocal jazz. You should have sung us out, Doug.
Woo-hoo!
Call to question. All in favor? So carried. Thank you.
Doug, you're a superstar.
Oh, that's about the only thing I can do.
All right, thank you. We now move on to 5.3, assurance plan approval. Cheryl.
And so I'm going to try to see if oh, you've got it up, Leanne. Can I see if I can share my screen so I could move it with just, I'm going to see if I can. I might need you to take it up for me though. Oh, I think I can. Right, then I can navigate that. Perfect. And as the trustees have reviewed before and talked about, and certainly as part of your strategic planning, as part of our school administration and leadership team planning, the assurance framework, provincial framework is new for us in Lethbridge School Division. Some school jurisdictions have piloted the assurance framework for a number of years. Provincially, we are required to follow the assurance framework this school year, which means our assurance plan needs to be submitted to Alberta Education at the end of May. A change in process. It used to be that our planning and reporting happened at the same time in November. Now our planning is in May and our reporting is in November. And assurance takes a little bit of a different approach to board planning and reporting. And so it's a lengthy plan. So I'm just going to feature some of the highlights of how this looks a little bit different. So of course we've got our trustees and our message. and our jurisdiction profile at the beginning. Those have always been the case in our planning for sure. At the front end of this plan, so that it's the public are aware and our staff and our leadership team is aware, the assurance framework, it indicates here that it's a balanced approach and it's new. And I listed the guiding principles for assurance, and that keeps us sort of aligned as we proceed through our planning and reporting with the intent of the guiding principles. And the guiding principles come from the province, of course. And so really what it does is recognize that all education partners have contributions and share in the responsibility for student growth and achievement. And it's about building capacity, continuous improvement, communication, ongoing engagement, engagement regularly with education partners in sort of the different levels of engagement, depending upon a board perspective and different decision-making processes, use of evidence reflecting local and societal contexts, recognizing the unique learning needs of all students, and sort of the fiscal responsibility and stewardship of resources, as well as a structure that is measured and reported is consistent with the best interest of student growth and achievement. And so at the beginning of the plan as well, we have a visual that helps individuals navigate sort of what looks different from our previous year's planning, because the board does have priorities and the board still forwards and talks about those priorities and certainly focused on those priorities as part of strategic planning. The provincial assurance domains are provincially provided. And so there are these 5 domains. We've got the local and societal that need to be addressed in our planning. So the local and societal context, governance, learning supports, teaching and leading, and student growth and achievement. What's new to our planning and reporting is we've always had local and societal context, just not called that. We always have had a description of our division and consideration of our local context and featured and highlighted programs. Governance is new in terms of being explicit in the plan. Not that governance is new in terms of governance engagement with the plan, but certainly new in terms of being explicit. The learning supports traditionally fall under our priority of inclusion that we've had over the past, since our strategic planning cycle of 4 years. Teaching and leading is a new area, but really the provincial measures and outcomes that are in those areas fall under the priorities of achievement and innovation, and student growth and achievement fall under the priorities of achievement and innovation. And this sort of shows how does our plan reflect and relate to the provincial goals is in the chart below. As well, one of the changes with assurance planning is that there's ongoing reporting of measures. Although we do have a report that happens in November that reports on all the measures, there's also ongoing reporting. And so once the board, pending approval of the board of the plan, what will happen is we will have what's called a dashboard that has ongoing reporting of measures throughout the year, and it's updated whenever those measures are updated, either through surveys or through a provincial testing program, which we don't have this year, of course. So the accountability, so there's going to be 4 dashboard measures that will be on our website that are accessible to the public at any time. The accountability pillar will be there with all of the performance measures. The financial ratios will be there. The student surveys will be there. The social, emotional, and student outcomes that the Our School survey, it's called, will be there, as well as our student demographics dashboard will be there. And so that makes it accessible to the public that they can go at any time to take a look at those 4 areas of measures that are part of our planning. So when we take a look at the first domain, local and societal context, we've always addressed that in our previous planning. And the sections that are in this plan include the educational delivery in the context of COVID, certainly, and the, right now, in terms of planning for next year, of course, the at this time, it's uncertain as to what will happen in the fall, but certainly we're working towards with the school leaders and staff to taking a look at what a blended scenario might look like with both at school and at home learning as options for parents. And we're still exploring that piece of it. And we've been through a number of these programs. Our English as a second language is interesting because while certainly we had some differences in the number of newcomers this year because of as an outcome of the pandemic. In 2019, we welcomed 151 students new to Canada. And in September of this year, we welcomed 82 new arrivals. And so certainly some impact there. At the same time, our numbers are still stable at about 1,252. So we do have a significant portion of English second language students in our school division, and certainly embrace the diversity that they bring to the school division. And Anne Muldoon, our Director of Inclusive Learning, also oversees and makes sure that we have structures in place to support students with limited formal schooling, and we have programs at Winston Churchill, Wilson, and GS Lakey Middle School for those students. Supporting families, we've celebrated many times in the school division the kind of support that our mental health capacity building program does, the kinds of supports and structures that are in place to support families there, as well as our entire wellness teams in our schools, which are under instructional services, and we have Kathy who oversees those, and you had a presentation regarding counseling last month, I believe it was, and the types of services and supports that are in place for that. Health and wellness, the board has also had a report from MORAG regarding health and wellness and the types of structures and programs that are in place in the division to support health and wellness of students and support health and wellness of staff. Inclusive education, that's a large portfolio as well. It's about making sure that we have the supports necessary for all students to be successful in the school division. And so certainly there's a range of supports that are put into place for all students. We have a framework that we use. We have universal design that we believe works well because it addresses the needs of all students as along a continuum of what those needs are. Curriculum development and assessment. Certainly we were looking forward to curriculum rolling out. Right now. We, as you know, we haven't engaged in, as the board has recommended, in participating in the pilot. We have yet to see whether the province will carry through with rolling out a curriculum that is sort of fraught with opposition across the province, but we'll find that out. Certainly, we continue to develop on innovative thinkers, and our staff and leadership have been working a lot on critical thinking and building pedagogy grounded in process-based learning, and continuing to move forward with what that looks like. Technology, I think the board can be proud that they have a technology evergreening plan, both for the technology, the traditional technology hardware that evergreening plan has been around for a long time, as well as our mobile technology and our peripheral technology that the board approved earlier this year. Growth in staff demographics, we've talked about that a lot this year, and certainly as we move forward, hopefully look at, it's been somewhat tumultuous in terms of student enrollment with COVID-19, and I'm not sure where some students went to, and starting to sort of map out and gather back some of the students who sought alternate forms of learning for this current school year. I'm going to stop there. I'll stop at the end of each section before I move on. Are there any questions about the first domain, which is the contextual domain? Good. The governance domain, and so in each of these areas, the outcomes derive from the provincial framework, right? And the measures, not all measures, but most measures also derive from the provincial framework, right? And so that's where those come from, as well as The strategies are areas that the board that derived from strategic planning, that derived from the administrators as well. And the board then, the domain of governance, this is the board's domain, and it's divided into areas of engagement of stakeholders to develop priorities, collaboration with other school authorities, municipalities, and community agencies, process for ongoing sharing of progress and results, school councils, risk management. All of those areas are areas that are recommended in the provincial framework that the board address and take a look at as part of their assurance plan moving forward. I'm going to pause there. The third domain, student growth and achievement, this is the largest domain. It's inclusive of our achievement and innovation priorities in the school division. Those outcomes are a blend of what's required with respect to the outcomes for the provincial framework, as well as outcomes identified from the work that the leadership team, all of the school-based administrators did for review of the plan. And so those are the outcomes. The measures, you can see here where if it's required by the province, the required is in italics. And so measures that are required by the province are italicized, and the ones that are not italicized are measures that the leadership team decided were important in terms of tracking success and progress in each of those outcome areas. Report location, this shows where the public will be able to find the measures. So the assurance dashboard, as I mentioned, is on our website, will always be updated. Some of them are not on the assurance dashboard and instead will be in the November results report. So those that are not on the assurance dashboard will be addressed in the November results report. And then for each area, there's the strategies are developed. And so provincially, this is a provincial outcome. Students achieve prescribed provincial learning outcomes demonstrating strength in literacy and numeracy. And so we've got strength in literacy and strategies that will address those, strength in numeracy. It's a provincial outcome that students apply knowledge, understanding, and skills in a real life context and situations. So there's strategies related to learning competencies, high school redesign, experiential learning, transition, two different kinds of transition, and innovation, two different areas of innovation. So that's quite a comprehensive part of the plan. Outcome 3, this is again another provincial outcome. Advanced reconciliation by acquiring and applying foundational knowledge of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit experiences. The school community applies the resources needed to support First Nations, Métis, and Inuit student achievement. And so there's strategies related to Indigenous student achievement focus, as well as Indigenous foundational knowledge and learning of Indigenous worldview. Students are active, healthy, and well, another provincial outcome. And the strategies.
I'm sorry, Cheryl.
Then,
Cheryl, I'm
yes.
just going to interrupt for a second. Oh, thank you. I was just going to ask if you were on, if you're from the public and joining us, we welcome you. If you could just mute, and we will go to the public forum when Cheryl is done this presentation. Thank you. Go ahead, Cheryl. Sorry.
The healthy and active, healthy and well, the strategies are outlined for that area. Another provincial outcome, understanding and respect for the uniqueness of all learners, and the strategies related to that, and the use of ongoing assessment feedback as well, a provincial outcome, and the strategies for that area. The fourth domain, teaching and leading. This is a new domain in planning. And so certainly I won't go through it painfully, but certainly I drew out of, as the board drew out of what was the strategies associated with, really it's about building staff capacity teacher capacity, support staff capacity, leadership capacity across the district. So the outcomes, again, are part of provincial requirements, and the strategies have to do with meeting the outcomes. So we've got the unique learning needs outcome. As part of that, what's something that's new is initiating an anti-racism and anti-oppression committee that has been launched and will be moving forward strongly in the fall. We've got collaboration for optimal student learning. And so, we've got the collaboration and engagement for growth supervision and evaluation, continuing to move forward with our inquiry-based professional learning, as well as our collaborative communities that Karen, as Director of Curriculum, has structured over the course of a few years. We've got collaboration for optimal student learning, and of course, professional learning and literacy, numeracy, concept-based instruction, and a number of other areas. And finally, the provincial requirement for use of data for strategies is there as well. The final domain, the fifth domain, learning supports. This really correlates with our division priority of inclusion. The outcomes are provincial required outcomes. And so we've got the welcoming, caring, respectful, and safe school. And that I've made reference to go back to the outcome of healthy and well, because all of the strategies that are associated with welcoming, caring, respectful, and safe are listed under that outcome area. We've got adaptation of learning environments to meet learning needs. And as I mentioned before, we've got a lot of work being done with UDL, as well as integration of support services within our classrooms, collaborative partnerships, cross-ministry initiatives, and the management of growth and capacity building to support learning spaces. This includes our capital plan, our IMR plan, CMR projects, making sure that we continue to monitor and take a look at if there were implications of our boundary changes moving into, as we move through and forward into next year. The rest of the plan, we've been through the budget that we did that at 1 o'clock as part of the public forum. So I'm not going to go through the budget section of the plan. Thank you, Mark, because what Mark does in this section is condenses the longer presentation that he gave as the public portion of the plan. And then at the end of the plan, we've got Christine, thank you, and Daniel, the capital plan is summarized here. As you know, there's a large document of the capital plan that's on our website. Our infrastructure maintenance and renewal and capital maintenance and renewal is described here. Parental involvement, what the division does in terms of structures for parental involvement, our whistleblower protection, and our fraud prevention, identification, and reporting are at the end of the plan as well. I know I went through that quickly, but certainly if you've got any questions, I know that you had a copy of this prior to the meeting. If there's any questions, trustees, I hope I can address them for you or direct the question to the manager that would be most informed in the area.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Are there any questions for Cheryl regarding the assurance plan? Doug.
Not a question, it's just a comment. Having been involved with annual plans, but not to this detail, I commend Executive Council and all the departments for putting together just a massive plan that lives, and I believe will adopt what we call assurance. There's a lot of work that goes into that. Appreciate everything that's been done with that. It's very comprehensive, and what I like about the plans and the plans we've had in the past. If things are not necessarily working, we go back and we revise it as need be, and I think that's always been the strength of our division, is to review and to look at things and take feedback. And so I appreciate all the work that's gone into it, because it is a lot of work to pull that all together considering how many students we have, families and schools. So, and teachers and staff that go with that. So thank you very much for the hard work.
Thank you, Doug. Any further comments or questions? I also want to thank you for all the work put into this. I think it's a very, it's a streamlined, large collection of the work that we do as a division. And I appreciate the clarity that it gives to all the areas in which we want to be held to account on. And I think going through the list, I can see some areas where there is need for improvement. And so I look forward to working in those areas and moving forward. And thank you for putting this together, Cheryl and team. Okay, if there are no further comments, if we could have a motion to approve the assurance plan as presented, please.
I'll move to approve the insurance plan as presented.
Thank you, Donna. Are there any comments? All right, then we called a question. All in favor? So carried. Thank you very much. All right, we are going to jump ahead to our meeting at 5 o'clock. It's 5:11, so we're a little tardy for this portion. At 5 o'clock, we enter into our public portion, public forum portion of the board meeting, where members of the public are welcome to come and address the board with question or concern. This is not a time for debate, but engagement with the board will be for clarity for board's sake, so we can have full information when we discuss the matter at hand. Now, I have been told that Becky Ash, are you there, Becky? Was wanting to talk?
Yes, I'm here under my son, Alex.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you. No, it's okay. After Becky, I will ask for any further additions to our public forum. And I know that a lot of times we're on our kids' teams and we come in as our son or daughter. So if you could introduce yourself by your name, that would be greatly appreciated. Becky, go ahead.
Hi, good evening, members of the Board of Trustees. My name is Rebecca Ash. I am a parent of a child in elementary school, and I have 2 children attending school at LCI. I just wanted to take this opportunity to speak to you regarding the recent letter from the superintendent about the final assessments from grades 9 through grade 12. The decision was to reduce the weighting of these exams from 30% to 15%. For their final mark. I believe that this will impact students for grades 9 through grade 12, but mostly my focus will be on just the grade 12 students for the purpose of what I have to say. I really appreciate all the time and effort that was put into making this decision, but I as a parent suggest that it was not enough. There was not enough parent input regarding this decision, and in fact, many parents feel very disregarded and ignored. I have personally, over the last 4 months, researched what other districts in the province have been doing with their final assessments. I'm not suggesting I contacted every school district in the province, but enough to know that easily spoke to over 50% of the districts that affected over 50% of the students in the province. And I discovered that the majority of the students in this province have no final exams at all, or have a no harm clause in their final assessment that cannot reduce their final grade. You may ask, well, why would any other school district have a bearing on our Lethbridge school district? And I will tell you in short, our students are required to compete with every other student in this province for scholarships and for post-secondary admissions. Sorry, I'm super nervous. These are all very competitive, and a few percentage points make a huge difference. We should be facilitating our students' post-secondary plans, not making it harder for them to be successful after high school. They should be placed on a level playing field with the students across the province. One argument in favor of the final exams recently given to me was a desire to prepare the students for university. But as a parent, I feel like a final exam does very little to actually prepare a student for university. What motivates students for university and success in university is a true desire to attend university and a chance to be in a program that they enjoy. The Lethbridge School District decision to require 15% final assessments will do little, if anything, to prepare these students for university, and in fact may actually be the factor that prevents some students from being able to do the programs that they would like to do. With the recent changes from 30 to 15%, teachers have begun reallocating the weighting of previous exams and assignments. My neighbor's Chem 30 mark just dropped 4% due to this reallocation. I want you to imagine that you are a grade 12 student. You already lost out your entire year on your school sports, your extracurricular activities, time with friends, and this is your final year in high school. You had to go back and forth from online learning to in-school learning, and then suddenly, without notice, you go in for your final exam and your grade has dropped 4%. It's not fair and it's not reasonable. I have actually had teachers in this district contact me personally and privately saying that they are in support of what we as parents are asking, but they are nervous to speak out for fear of what could be said or done in their life. My position today is supported, I believe, by the majority of parents and teachers and majority of students. The parents, the teachers, and the students are the ones that are in the trenches during this pandemic. We know how hard the students have been working and how the pandemic has impacted these students emotionally, physically, and socially. I am concerned that this decision shows how out of touch that the decision makers may be with the students and especially with the rest of the province. What the students need, and frankly what they deserve, is a no harm clause along with their 15% weighting. Such a clause would ensure that students' final assessments would help increase their final mark should they be able to increase it, but would not cause their mark to drop. I'm skipping to the end, so I'm not talking too much, I promise. We recently had someone say to me that they suggested that students may stop trying, but we need to remember that when this pandemic started, the no harm clause was put in place last year for students that really, frankly, didn't miss as much back and forth as our students did this year. So why are our students getting less, I think? I'm not asking for them not to take a final exam. Parents are fine with the final exam. The majority of us parents just feel that the no harm clause would support our children best. After my many requests, no one has actually provided me with a reasonable argument as to why it's staying without that. So at this point, I have only one conclusion, that there is no reasonable argument for us to not have the no harm clause. I would like to remind everyone at this meeting that in paragraph 1 of the Lethbridge School Division's policy, 505.9, appeals concerning student matters, it states every decision must be directed towards the educational interests of the student and must consider the impact of the decision on the total population of students served. By proceeding with final assessments without a no harm clause, I feel that we have failed in achieving the goals of this policy and we have failed our students. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak and to share my position. I hope that my thoughts will be brought into any discussions about this in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Are there any trustees who have a question for clarity's sake? Okay, seeing none, Rebecca, on behalf of the board, I do want to thank you for your presentation to us. We appreciate public members coming forward to express a concern or perspective. You did well, even though you were nervous, you did very well. You can be assured that the board will carefully consider what you have said today and provide a response in the near future. And what we have done, Rebecca, is you will receive a letter prior to the next board meeting. So by the 3rd week of June, I believe that is, you'll receive a letter of response. from Cheryl. Okay, so now you know when to expect that by. And certainly this has to do with assessment, so certainly we'll be doing that as prudently as possible.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other members of the public present that would like to speak with the board at this time?
If I could just say a couple things, Christine.
Of course, Allison, would you be able to pop onto, are you able to pop onto screen at this time?
I'm not, just because I'm
Okay,
doing
that's fine.
things with the kids, but
Okay.
I had no idea that Andrew and Carrie were going to be on today, and I wasn't able to type anything into chat. So I did want to just say that it's been a fabulous experience going through work experience with the school division and the staff that have supported my son through the process. And every word that they said was absolutely true. And to see the change in my son and for him to be able to have a supported work placement. He does have autism and selective mutism, or severe apraxia of speech and epilepsy, and to be able to support him in a workplace setting is absolutely phenomenal. And the job relationships that he's making for him to be able to learn about getting ready for work and what that looks like. And they provided him with 4 uniforms, and in the picture you could see him in a uniform, and it was about 2 months in that they provided him with the uniform, and it was just a changed kid to see him and him in preparing not just for work, but life skills and what that work looks like. So it has been a fabulous opportunity, and what the division does to be able to provide that opportunity for kids is phenomenal. So I just want to give kudos, and too bad I couldn't have said that when both Andrew and Carrie were there, but I'll certainly pass it on, and if you guys can pass it on as well.
We can absolutely do that, Allison. Thank you. That's very encouraging. It was really phenomenal to see the work that they do. And it's exciting to see kids find their passions and find their place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anyone else present in this Teams meeting that would like to address the board at this time? All right, seeing no hands raised or no callouts, we will move back to our agenda. And we are at 5.4, natural gas contracts. Christine.
Thank you very much. So kind of like what we did with the electricity is we started to see that there might be some upward pressure on costs. We wanted to get into more of a long range contract to secure some of our pricing. And so on the advice of our consultants, has recommended that we enter into a 3-year contract starting in January 2022 to secure some pricing on natural gas. Just a little bit of history. We moved in July 2020 to access gas on a month-to-month market index. At that time was about an average of 2.23 gigajoules. In 2021, the price of natural gas on average has moved to, on the market has moved to about $3 per gigajoule. And there's some reasons for the price pressure. There's changes in storage protocols where suppliers are no longer forced to dump their gas on the market. They can actually store. So for instance, they can store gas in the summer months when there is no demand, and then bring it out on the market when the price is better. There's some credit premiums because of COVID-19 that's impacted rates. And then of course, with higher oil prices expected in 2021, some of the demand on gas pipelines will change, and so there's a correlation there. Because this is a commodity on the market that changes regularly, what we do is we went out for an indicative price going forward on today's market, which ranges anywhere from $2.62 a unit of gigajoule to 282, depending on the length of the contract. Tomorrow morning, we will receive final pricing for the vendors that we had previously pre-approved and selected last July when we went to a new provider. And that was Direct Energy, Access Gas, NMAX, and TransAlta. We're expecting all four to provide a bid for pricing as of 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And so in order to engage in a contract for the best price, I need board approval to do that. We're recommending a 3-year contract with 70% hedge. So 70% of the price will be what we call a hedge price, fixed as to what they're providing us for that 3-year period, with 30% still floating. That allows us to take advantage of those lower prices during the summer, or if there's also a reversal of what we think and there is a dip in the market. And of course, we will keep always an eye out on what the future market is doing and react if we need to. So I am seeking approval to sign a contract for the period of January 2022 to December 2024 with the supplier that provides the best and final pricing.
Thank you, Christine. Are there any questions for Christine? Seeing none, if we can have a motion to approve.
All right, I'll do that. A recommendation that the board approves the Associate Superintendent Business Operations to enter a natural gas supply contract for the period of January 2022 to December 2024 with the supplier that provides the best final pricing.
Thank you, Doug. Any further discussion? Call a question, all in favor? So carried. Right, 5.5, Ecole Nicholas Sharon name change. Cheryl.
Right. This is fairly straightforward. With the change of boundaries, we have a single track French immersion school with Ecole Agnes Davidson. And so the change from Ecole Nicholas Sharon would be to Nicholas Sharon Elementary School. And so because it is no longer a French immersion school.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, my mic was off. I do have a question regarding this. When we go on the website, all of the elementary schools have elementary in their names. Are those formal names on the website, on the tabs? And if they all have
I believe so.
So if they all have
I'd
elementary,
have to check that for sure, Christine, but I believe so. So really we should have elementary school
yeah,
here.
that's what I was wondering.
Yeah. Yes, we would amend that to elementary school.
Okay.
Okay. I'll do that. Recommendation is, it's recommended the board accept the school name change to Nicholas Sharon Elementary School as notified and notify Alberta Education of the change effective of 2021-2022 school year.
Thank you. Any discussion? Called a question, all in favor? So carried. Thank you. All right, we move on to division highlights. Board members, executive council, are there any highlights you would like to share from this past month? Jan.
I just wanted to mention that this morning I attended via Teams the staff recognition at Mike Mountain Horse Elementary School. However, because I was having problems with the audio, although I could see everybody and I wasn't able to actually express my appreciation to the staff at that particular time. So I want to take this opportunity to congratulate the staff members that reached a milestone in their employment with our school division, and wish them all the very best over the summer, and see them again in the fall. But like I said, I was sorry I wasn't able to express my thanks, even though that they did know that I was there. I just wasn't able to communicate. So I really appreciated being asked to partake.
Thank you so much, Jan. Clark.
Well, I just a couple shout outs here. I'd like to, everyone recognizes the importance of principals and school leaders in our division. And to my count, I don't know if I'm missing anybody, but we received an email last week about Kevin Wood leaving us. Bill Bartlett is leaving us, and Mark Blankenstein is leaving us. So 3 of our principals are heading out, not necessarily to retire, but to work for someone else. And I would like to wish them all the best, and wanted to say how much I appreciated the things in my interactions with those 3 gentlemen. I have been able to be a liaison or something at each of their schools, and it's a very tough job being a principal, and I think it's even a more tough job to be a principal that is successful. So thank you to Kevin, Bill, and Mark for all that they've done for our kids, and good luck in the future.
Thank you, Clark. Donna.
Well, I'd like to say thank you for everybody who was involved in the Edwin Parr evening. Edwin Parr is for first-year teachers, and all of the districts throughout the province name a first-year teacher that they particularly think is deserving of this award. So our first-year teacher was Michaela McNabb from General Stewart School. Just a wonderful teacher. She joined us late in the year and has had a very successful year. So I wanted to thank all the people involved in that, and we wish them well in their career.
Thank you, Donna. Well, I had the privilege to be present when schools received further donations of Chromebooks for their students, and it was phenomenal to see just the gratitude and the excitement that they were received with. And I know one principal told the story of one family where 4 or 5 children were sharing mom's phone to do their schooling. And so I think it's incredible that they were able to be gifted with a Chromebook to finish the year well, and to help in those endeavors, because certainly kids are all back in school tomorrow. But we're anticipating some to have to bounce back to home. And so I know that this will be an encouragement and a help as they continue to do their schooling. And we also had our ICE application selection happen last week. And so we received 17 submissions this year, my apologies. And they were phenomenal submissions, and it was great to see the projects that kids brought forward this year. And so we have shortlisted it to 10, and the presentations will be happening on June the 3rd. So I look forward to reporting further about those presentations to you at next month's board meeting. All right, well, let's move on to information items, our board chair report. As I just said, students are returning to school tomorrow. I just want to say a huge shout out to parents for working alongside their students for the 2-week stretch at home. I know it is not easy. I know we are weary of it. I know kids are weary of it. This is the time of year where kids are already struggling anyways when we're in a normal context. And so thank you, parents, for all the the time and encouragement that you've put into supporting your kiddos at home. And thank you to all the staff for all the work and the professionalism that you have done to support students, to stay connected with students, and to continue to encourage students to do their best in the midst of this circumstance. And certainly we're hoping that we were able to reset, and the 2 weeks at home put our division in a healthier position to keep schools open and to have schools staffed. One statistic that I would like to share with you is we have the immunization statistics for our youth ages 12 to 18 for Lethbridge is incredibly encouraging. On the north side, we have 72.3% students. On the south side, 78.9% students. And on the west side, I believe it is 91.3%, if I have that correct. That's high, but I believe that is the correct number. And adults alike, it's around 50% on all sides of town. And so we are moving in the right direction as a community. That is exciting. The closer we can be to those high numbers that we can be protected and immunized, the closer we are to being in school and staying in school and serving kids where they can be served best. So that is our pandemic plan update for today. And the update, again, will be able to be found on the division website. All right, we can move on to Associate Superintendent reports. We'll start with business and operations. Christine.
Thank you. You have my report. I'm just going to add a few things that aren't in the report because they've just sort of come up. So under facilities, we received last Friday the news about our modular requests. We had submitted for 6 brand new modular units, 2 classrooms and 1 washroom at Coalbanks. We received 1 classroom and 1 washroom unit at Coalbanks. The washroom unit is the key unit that we had to have in order to keep expanding. So even though we didn't get 2 classrooms, we're fortunate that we did get the classroom and the washroom. We didn't get brand new. We requested a brand new modular for Dr. Proby, and we requested 2 brand new modulars for Chinook, and we did not get them. What we did get that we didn't ask for was we received funding to install the 3 modular units that we rescued from a Francophone school in Medicine Hat. We did that under the kind of as a favor to Alberta Education. They put in funding for that for us to put those in place. We will be placing those 3 modular units at Chinook High School. They're vintage 2010, same vintage as Chinook. This will add some space, a little bit of space to Chinook, give them a little bit of breathing room, and I think is welcome for that school. So we're excited for that opportunity. Next item under finance, of course, we did approve the budget today. Thank you for that. Just hot off the presses, the education minister has issued a ministerial order that the budget timeline has now been extended to June 18th from May 31st. But of course, because we've approved the budget today, we will meet the May 31st deadline. I think we have not missed a deadline in the whole years I've been here. So that's good. Regarding technology, just really excited about the opportunity that we were able to give families as they move to at-home learning until of course today. When we did that, we did open up our online student device store, and to date we had 12 units sold where families took advantage of getting that great pricing, and immediately once they pay could come in and pick up a unit from us for new ones. And then also our schools were really great at providing some of our older laptops to families on loan if they needed something to help them through that at-home learning phase that we just went through. So that was really good. Transportation. I'm going to talk at this point, I'm going to talk about the Student Transportation Task Force report that came out. The the recommendations. I did a summary of the recommendations for you from that document. This is report came out May 10th. The task force was headed up by our Lethbridge East Emily Nathan Newdorf, and that committee actually did a lot of consultation. They talked to every school board about transportation. We had an opportunity to meet with the panel and have a conversation and give our thoughts and concerns and what worked and what didn't in transportation. And so some of that came out in the report. Just briefly, some of the recommendations. Of course, there was recommendations under MELT, mandatory entry level training, which is fairly costly. And so they're looking at reviewing the curriculum and seeing if it really does apply to school buses. Recommendations to service delivery model. They're going to establish an audit team that will go around to, I think they're starting with 6 school boards in the province, and try and figure out what a baseline looks like for providing a baseline transportation services. Is there some best practices for efficiency and effectiveness? And so I think that will be really good data to have as we move forward, because of course the next recommendation is a funding model for transportation. We were this year, our grant stayed the same as it was last year, pending a new funding model for transportation. And so we have always for costs have been very strict on enforcing the 2.4 kilometer guideline so that we could have our affordable transportation system. And so it'll be good to see what they come up with on that funding model, which will be based on a lot of the audits that they're going to do. Recommendations for school bus safety. A lot of these items were related to crossing arms. So that was particularly more of a rural concern than it was in the city. In the city, we're not allowed to use the crossing arms. But we do, of course, one of the things we're always concerned about was students using the crosswalk, and they're educated to, of course, not cross until the bus is left, go through in the crosswalk. But of course, there are sometimes we do have a little bit of flybys occasionally with pedestrians. But this concern was mainly to those crossing arms. Of course, talked about specialized transportation. That's a very expensive and costly mode of transportation, is providing that specialized service to those students. And so it's something that needs attention, so that make sure that we're funded appropriately to provide that service to our students who need to get to school. And so I'm hoping that they come up with some good recommendations there. Of course, several recommendations on regional cooperation between school jurisdictions. Well, Lethbridge has always been a model for that, with what we collaborated with Holy Spirit in our relationship with the city of Lethbridge. We're continuing to collaborate as we've transitioned with Southland, and we've even strengthened that relationship in sharing the coordination of the transportation services. And so we continue to cooperate, and we have an excellent relationship. And I would say we're one of the models for that particular recommendations in Lethbridge. And then ride times, of course, are always an eligibility criteria, is an area they're going to, of course, study. School of choice is an issue that they're going to study. And then about, of course, fees is always a hot topic. And so ride time is particularly in the metros, in the rural areas, is a big concern. One of our practices is we always try to consider ride time when we're working on our routes. And then provincial purchasing, and just saving money on purchasing buses and whatnot. And we will extend that to their service providers, so that in the long run will help us out with our contract with our service providers. And that's about all I have. For the rest is in my report. Do you have any questions on the report or the transportation task force report?
Any questions for Christine? If members of the public are looking for the new bell times, where can they find that, Christine? Are they posted?
The schools will post their bell times on their school websites for the next school year. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much. Thank you for your report. Okay, let's move on to Human Resources report. Mike.
Thanks, Christine. So just a few highlights in the report. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, we're excited to add a number of teachers to our substitute list here recently. Number of new graduates that just got their certification, so they're really excited to get in the classroom and do some substituting. And with students back, there'll certainly be more opportunities for them in the coming weeks. So yeah, it's always nice to get that sort of influx of teachers that are new to the profession and they're just really excited and really keen. Under the other highlights section, one of the things I just wanted to note that I really appreciate, you'll see that Amber Rouet was working with some of our school-based administrators, especially our new ones, on how to use our workable hiring software. And it's really the sort of thing that I really appreciate with the HR team, that they take that time to work with the schools and help support them in their role so they can do their role more effectively. Because as much as we're very focused about HR in our department, it's only one part of their job. And so if we can help them be more effective and efficient at it, it sure makes a big difference and allows them to spend more time working with kids, which is really the most important thing. In terms of the staffing update, Leanne, if you just scroll down to that, that's really been the focus in the department. It's obviously a busy time. So a few highlights just to hit. First of all, Rhonda and Stacey have been working really hard with the schools and with members of the DIS department, of course, and with school-based administration to get support staff allocations in place and then to make all the necessary hiring moves based on that. So there is quite a bit of movement this year with changing of boundaries, with opening of a new school. So that's required a fair bit of work to get people in place, and we're excited that tomorrow there's going to be actually starting today, there are a number of support staff positions posted, and there'll be a bunch more tomorrow. As you can see, we've completed most of our administrative hiring. Of course, it never really stops, but we've got the bulk of it done. And you'll also see that we've completed the vast majority of the transfers that we had to complete with Dr. Plaxton coming, opening up, and with some of the boundary changes we had to remaneuver some of our staff. So happy to get that done. There's still a little bit more work to do there always is, but again, the bulk of that is done. And then of course we did our round one teaching postings, and there was about 30 postings. Some were probationary, some were temporary contracts. We had incredible interest. In the first 6 days, I sort of just did a quick count, and we were well over 600 applications. I wouldn't be surprised if now, that was about a week ago that I did the count, I wouldn't be surprised if we're close to 1,000 applications. So certainly there's a fair bit of interest in positions out there, which is absolutely wonderful. The one thing to be aware of, it is a little more nuanced than that. So it doesn't mean that every position that we have has a massive number of applicants. Some of the more specialized positions, French immersion, bilingual, Spanish bilingual, those sorts of things, will certainly have a lower number of applicants. And then we'll get other positions that'll have well over 100 applicants. So, but it's been very impressive to see. Administrators have repeatedly just said how impressive the candidates are, not only their resumes, but the folks that they interview. And certainly another sign that the teaching profession and education in general is in really good hands. And then just want to say a quick kudos to our school-based administrators. They've been working tremendously hard on the staffing process. It's exciting to have 100+ applications for one of your positions, but it's also a tremendous amount of work to go through all of those applications and give each one their due consideration. And they've certainly done that. And as always, just tremendous professionals and making sure that they're doing the best job that they can to find the best teachers possible for our students. So really that's, I mean, you know, if you had to summarize my entire report in one statement, it would be it's staffing time, and we're busy on staffing right now. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I think you've seen the report.
Great, thank you. It's good to see more subs on the list. It's good to see people applying. Yeah, that's great news.
Yeah, no, it's exciting for sure. Yeah.
Are there any questions for Mike? All right, seeing none, thank you, Mike, for your report. Sorry?
Yeah, I'll just add one other thing really quick. Just dovetailing on Donna's comments about the Edwin Parr earlier. Another great example of just how exciting it was to listen to those beginning teachers and how the joy that they felt from being in education. It's very inspiring, and certainly our administrators are having the same experience when they're interviewing these beginning teachers. So, okay, I'm done.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Morag, Instructional Services reports.
And looking at the time, I'm going to be very short and just say if there are any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I think just the one really exciting highlight from this last month has been the embarking upon working with Kaylee and Tracy, administrators at Vic Park and Churchill, on developing an anti-racism and anti-oppression administrators committee. And we've started a lot of mapping work, working with the diversity and inclusion table, but we really do look forward to the work that we're going to do with that committee over the next year. So I'm not going to beat my drum too much here. I think there's all the details in the writing. If there's any questions, don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you, Morag. Any questions for Morag? All right, seeing none, we will move on to Superintendent report. Cheryl.
Thank you. My report, the priority report to the board is there. And I just want to, I know it's been said a number of times, echo my high regard and appreciation for the amazing leadership we have in our schools and the quality of staff that we have in our schools that continue to have their unwavering commitment to students. They've been delivering lessons, and all of our staff supporting students over the course of the year in many different ways, and appreciate their flexibility as we enter June. I sort of call it the sprint. In other words, it's sort of one of those things where you almost wish it could stand still for a minute, but at the same time, it's a sprint to the end. And it's been our leaders who have kept the train on the track throughout the year, and really appreciate that. And of course, all of our staff, teachers and support staff in our schools, who have made sure that students remain cared for, supported, and successful. And so I'm grateful to belong to a staff that's so committed to kids. Unless there's any questions on my priority report to the board, I know that that's there for your information. Are there any questions? Let's move.
I see none.
All right, let's move to acknowledgement of excellence. I love, and this is sort of what brings us to, this affirms the point I just made about how our schools, regardless of challenges, remain amazing places to be. If you take a look every month when we take a look at our showcase of schools, if you take a look at Lakeview, their showcase, they managed to have creatively navigated how they will still have assemblies. It's just done virtually. And the outdoor, my goodness, I'm sure that Tamora Gasquith, our associate superintendent, is thrilled, because it seems to me every month we read more and more about how our schools are moving forward with outdoor activity, whether it be an outdoor classroom, they're improving their outdoor spaces for students. And so that's exciting, because it's really focused some attention on what are all of the contributing factors to the wellness of our students. And one of those is being outdoors and paying attention to space, outdoor space and environment. So certainly, Morag, you can be commended for moving that forward. Sort of the whole outdoor play day and our fine arts, again, just like our outdoor pursuits, our teachers never fail us in terms of finding ways to make sure that our students remain engaged in those learning activities that extend their thinking and sort of make sure that all of their talents are tapped into and their passions in school. So thank you to all of our fine arts teachers for sure. We've got some other schools at Mike Mountain Horse, same idea. If you take a look, they somehow continue with their project-based learning, making sure that they do all of their projects is just online. They have invited Melanie Morrow from our Indigenous education team to instill Indigenous lands and perspectives and activities. And they still, you know, they've traditionally, Mike Mountain Horses held monthly spirit assemblies, and they've managed to do that in a different way, virtually, and certainly are proud of the fact that their school council remains highly engaged and in embracing the technology world. And Emmanuel Christian Secondary School showcased this month as well. Important, of course, as an alternative school program, is the infusion of their faith-based perspective, and they've navigated how to have virtual chapels. And there we go with the word outdoor play again, have had much needed emphasis for the students as they engage in healthy activity. They continue to have band classes. There's the fine arts coming across again. And of course, what's really exciting is that we still had students at this school and other schools as well. Josh Bosma and Ari Har happen to be highlighted here, but participate in Regional Skills Canada. And in this feature for Emmanuel Christian Secondary School, we've got silver to Josh and a bronze to Ari. So our students still are engaged, successful, exploring things that they are passionate about, and receiving recognition for those things. So let's move to the donations and support. I know that Christine Light earlier talked about the Evangelical Free Church and the generous donation of 40 Chromebooks. Oh my goodness, I was enchanted, certainly by the student who talked about how grateful he was. He was an amazing representative for Wilson Middle School, and he represented all students really receiving these Chromebooks. And Christine already talked about the difference that this makes to students and families. And a Chromebook may be shared among a number of children, young men and women in that household who are accessing either learning from home or extended learning from their classroom. As we know, technology has become certainly a more seamless part of what it is that schools, that students do with schools and engage in learning, whether they're in school or at home. Huge thank you to the Medicine Shop, Vishal, and scholarships to 8 high school students. How generous is that? Oh my goodness, $625. Huge difference to someone at the high school level for a total of $5,000. To thank you so much to Vishal and the Medicine Shop, owner of the Medicine Shop, for that generous donation. And that takes us to school graduation. You know, I know our schools are still navigating. When we went to gather the information to put together the board agenda to let board members know, and trustees and public, what school graduation year and celebrations were going to look like. They're still navigating this, and you know, knowing that there may be some changes to provincial protocols upcoming over this week. They've got certainly plans in place. It's not like they don't have plans in place. They've got plans in place, but how they finalize those plans certainly will depend upon what we're hearing from the province over the course of the next week. And so stay tuned. Certainly we'll be providing trustees with the information as it comes forward from our schools. And finally, we have our calendar of events that is there for the trustees and public. Is there anything that we may have missed on our calendar of events?
No, I think it's all there.
Great. And that is all that I have. Christine, thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. All right, we will now move on to our reports. The first is Policy Advisory Committee. We went through all of our policies. Lola Clark, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Nothing from me.
All right, we will move on to Poverty Intervention Committee. We had our final meeting of the year on May the 5th, so my notes are before you. I have to say it's been a really great year for this committee. This committee's really come together. We've been a lot more focused, and we've been able to gain a clearer picture of poverty within our division and serving our students within our division. So there is a year-end summary video that you can access on the division website. And if you go to board and on the board tab, click down onto the poverty microsite, you can find it there. There's a year-end, yeah, it's a great summary. It has voices of students and of staff, and you can just see the great work that the poverty committee has done and the staff has done. So if there's any questions coming from my report, I won't read through it. Are there any questions? Jan?
Yes, I just noticed about the WAM bags. And there was 100 fewer bags, excuse me, distributed this year. Is it because that they were getting assistance somewhere else, or they didn't have enough for donations?
We did have enough for donations this year. Deanna does believe it's because of the pandemic, there are so many more avenues to get assistance, financial assistance and food assistance. So families are accessing those. And there's another factor as well, as there are more families needing assistance. However, they don't necessarily know how to ask for assistance or aren't necessarily willing to. So there's a few different reasons leading to that. Deanna is anticipating an upswing in accessing supports in the upcoming year. And I know last summer as well, we did help families out between June and September. Any other questions? All right, ATA Local Council. Again, my report is there. It was pretty straightforward. I won't read through the report as you can read it, but new teacher induction was 60 new teachers, which is very, very exciting. They will have a drop-in style celebration. And then, of course, the retirement celebration cannot gather, but they're going to have a drop-in style, a pickup style dinner with a decor basket for their honorees. Let me see here. They are adding a member to attend the Division School Council meetings monthly to engage with stakeholders on that level. And are there any questions from this report from anybody? Sorry, Lola, can you turn your mic on?
Christine, we need a motion to extend the meeting.
Oh,
thank you. Thank you for watching.
How much longer? Like, this is getting pretty bad. No, okay.
If I could have a motion to extend the meeting, that would be appreciated. Jan?
Yes, I move that we continue with the meeting, extend the meeting, however it's worded. I'm not sure. Past 6 o'clock.
Thank you, Jan. Called a question, all in favor? Hands are slowly rising. So carried. Thank you. Lola, please continue.
June is Pride Month, and COVID edition Pride shirt and swag. Will that be at the beginning, or and there's no dates there and stuff, so.
Oh yeah, so what that means is they are going to have Pride shirts and Pride swag available, and the whole month of June is Pride Month, and so everything, I believe, I don't know that there's going to be a Pride parade, but the celebrations are going to be online, and so they just wanted to highlight that you will be able to get your Pride shirt. I'm not sure. I'm assuming it's through School Cash Online, but again, there isn't going to be an in-person art auction like they typically do. Okay, so now we're going to move on to Division School Council. It was a brief meeting. They had their Alberta School Council conference. Edna Sem and Allison Pike attended, and in that meeting, the minister advocated for in-class learning and just social emotional pieces being reviewed of the students moving forward. You can also within the minutes find links to curriculum and curriculum feedback, as well as the assurance model. Now we'll move forward to the board budget committee. Donna, is that you? Oh, Clark. Sorry, Clark.
Board Budget Committee, and we've talked about budget quite a bit. The report is there, and if you have any questions, I'm trying to answer. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Clark. And next, Donna, ASBA general meeting.
I'll just draw your attention to what Alberta Education is reporting about their curriculum. And they're saying that they've had positive feedback about the language arts curriculum. Generally positive feedback about the mathematics curriculum. They've got some mathematics too low, and they'll have to do some corrections. They've shifted the science curriculum to from a discovery approach to a more memorization approach. I don't know if they'll change that. And of course, the social studies curriculum has received lots of negative feedback, and they'll probably maybe rewrite that one. But they certainly have a lot of that they're happy with the curriculum. And so we may see changes to some subject areas and not to others. And the rest of my report is there.
Thank you, Donna. Any questions for Donna? So Donna, who's receiving positive feedback on the curriculum?
They didn't tell us, but that's the report by, this is a report by Todd Siebens, and he would be reporting on Alberta Education itself. It was his report, and they said that there's 58 of the 61 boards not piloting, and,
right.
and 4 boards doing part. But I don't know who is giving that feedback.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Those numbers just don't seem to align. So thank you.
Oh, not quite.
No, not quite. Any questions for Donna? Okay, thank you. Well, we now have correspondence. We sent off a letter of thanks to the minister for including education staff in their vaccinations. 2 days before they allowed everybody age 12 and up to participate in the vaccination rollout. But we sent a letter of thanks because that's the right thing to do. But we are glad that they finally included staff. I do wish they would have included them earlier. And then we received a letter also from City of Lethbridge Land Development that is there regarding the Watermark Community, the outline plan.
And Christine,
yeah.
I attended that.
Sorry?
I attended that.
Oh, would you like to speak to this or?
Yeah, it was just just an outline plan for the Watermark. So we have the Water Bridge, which is a little bit bigger of a subdivision. Actually, stop on that map there. Thank you. This is the Watermark, and Water Bridge actually goes out into here. And Watermark, I'm sorry, I'm pointing at a screen and you
can't see where you're pointing.
You can't even see it. But anyways, the area around Senator Joyce Fairburn. So the outline plan looks at the type of housing they're going to have, the green space, the pathways. Also, talks to kind of the community plan. They're going with more what they call a visitable type housing, which is housing that you can roll right up to. If you have a wheelchair, little wider opening doors, makes it easier for people for accessibility, and then it's planned around that. There are middle school is the only school in that particular subdivision. When you go over to west of 25th Street West, there you see that there is a school planned in that subdivision. But the subdivision there have 7 phases. They probably won't start phase 1, which will be closest to Senator Joyce Fairburn, for about another 3 years. And so that's a 30-year plan. So things are going to, move a little slower on that end of town from the sounds of things.
Okay, thank you for that.
And that's all I know.
Thank you. Donna, is your hand up for question?
Yes.
Donna, you're muted. We can't hear you.
I'd like to give you a better answer to your question. Most of the school boards said they didn't want to pilot that the curriculum because it's not a good time for teachers to take on an extra workload. But almost all of the districts would have sent in a report of their analysis of the curriculum, just like we did. And so that what they're saying about the curriculum would have come from those reports that the school districts were sending in.
Okay, thank you, Donna, for clarifying that. Well, thank you, everybody, for your time. This brings us to Lola has a question. Lola, if you could turn your mic on.
On the thing about the curriculum, it has been back and forth, and it's mostly negative. And I don't know if they're gonna, they're saying that they're gonna change it, and there's a lot of teachers and a lot of people that are in high positions that would like it changed too. It was kind of sad. And you have to ask how many teachers were involved in doing the new curriculum, and you won't find very many.
Yep, that's very true. And it's definitely something we're going to continue to advocate for as a division. Thank you, Lola. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This meeting is adjourned. I hope everyone has a good night. Thank you, visitors, for joining us. Take care.